So we have Justin here with us in America. And we have also Wael Zaki from Bahrain. We've got also Carolyn Moncel, who is in Switzerland. We have Dustin Wenger in Canada. We've got also Scotty Schindler in Australia, and we are missing one more person, José Ochoa, who is in Mexico. And we also have, let me see, oh, sorry, I missed one more person. And we have Kathrin Gnilka in Germany. Excellent.
Hello.
Perfect. Then today's topic, we're gonna talk about changes. Everybody has a different meaning, what changes means. So we're gonna ask each of you to talk about it and see how things will go with that. Are you ready? Excellent. Yeah. Carolyn, we will be my first. I'm gonna ask the question. We are all listening to you. Please, on the mic.
Well, okay. Hi, Sonia. Hi, everyone. It's very nice to be here with you today. I gave that some thought over the last couple of days. And I think for me, change has come to mean two things. In the beginning, it used to be fear. And I let a good portion of my life let change equate fear. But over the last few years, and especially in the times that we're living in now, opportunity means, for me, change means opportunity. That's what it means. And I've been living that not only in my own business, but in my daytime work. When the pandemic hit, the first thing that we said to everyone is that we're not going to look at this as a place of fear. Everyone's scared. We're going to look at this as a place of opportunity. What can we bring to the table that helps people to understand we're going to get through this together and we're going to be okay? So how do we do this and use this as an opportunity? So for me, change means opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Dustin, would you like to come on site?
Sure thing. And I mean, first off, I kind of set myself a personal goal to never be the smartest person in the room.
Yes.
And looking at this room, I am definitely accomplishing my goal. So I gave this a bunch of thought. And I mean, I live in a world of change. It's my job, literally. And I mean, I think there's a bunch of experts out there that have provided really good, robust models of, how do you make change successful, whether it's personal change or professional change. But one thing I constantly find people struggle with is knowing when to change. And like Carolyn mentioned, there's fear. There's been a great amount of research lately into the grief that we need to go through in order to actually accept change. So it's this weird kind of dichotomy where change is this combination of hopeful optimism for the future paired with crippling skepticism about whether or not we've actually made the right decision. And I go back to one of my profs from university who kept harping on us over and over again, and I couldn't figure out why at that point in time. I was a little thick at that moment in life, but he kept talking about the head and the heart, and the head and the heart, and the head and the heart. And change is both an intellectual activity and an emotional activity. And intellectually, it's really easy to rationalize whether or not we should do something. From a professional standpoint, we can look at the metrics. I tell all my clients, know your numbers, know your numbers. And the numbers will tell you if you need to change something in your business. If your customer retention's falling off, if you're seeing a whole bunch of employee turnover, if your profit margin is falling, if your cost of customer acquisition is rising. There's a bunch of numbers that tell you it's time to do something different. But I think a lot of us struggle with knowing when to change in a personal sense, and not being able to recognize kind of that gut level trigger that says it's time to do something different. Whether it's I don't want to get out of bed, or I can't fall asleep at night, or that nagging feeling that things just aren't the way they should be. And then not knowing what to do, even when we recognize those feelings in ourselves. We've all developed coping mechanisms, and we react, and we fall into the same trap of behaviors that aren't going to actually get us anywhere in our life. And taking the time to stop and get comfortable with discomfort and sit in that discomfortable feeling and sit there and go, why do I feel like this? Why do I have this nagging gut that says things could be better, things could be different? Like, what's the source of that? And I mean, it's very simplistic, but I remind myself of it all the time. I literally go back to the Serenity Prayer, and a bunch of you will probably be familiar with it. Lord, grant me, how's it go? I got to remember this one. I literally write it down so I don't have to remember things. Lord, grant me the peace to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that's probably one of the most powerful statements, regardless of faith or, you know, your personal leanings. But, you know, I think that's what we all want when it comes to change, is just, you know what I can change, know what I can't, and the wisdom to be able to tell the difference so I'm not spinning my wheels. So, yeah, I'll turn it over there.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin. So we're going to ask what we have right now in front of us. Scotty, would you like to take the opportunity to share with us your point of view about changes?
Sure. You know, as someone that came from a startup background, I mean, when I started the software company, we were the change. So we had to go out to the industry and convince people there was a change coming, and we had a better way of doing things. So, you know, change has always been constant. But I guess you're primarily talking here about the experience of change and COVID and how we're having to react and how we're having to respond and pivot over the last few months. But, you know, every disadvantage has the seed of, you know, equal or greater advantage. Except you have to find it. It's not going to come out and someone's not going to give it to you. You have to be looking for those advantages at all times. You know, you sort of have to become the change. You have to be the change. If you want to see change, you have to make the change. There's no magic carpet or magic wand here. We all have an opportunity to do things in this situation, and some people really are stepping up to the plate, and some people really are changing and pivoting with these times, and some of them are really a surprise. And what I mean by that is some people that you wouldn't think would step up are, and that's been such a pleasure to witness along the last few months, whether it be locally or internationally. But, you know, one last thing I'll leave just on the opening here about my thoughts on change is one of the beautiful things about what's happening now around the globe is it's a global situation, but it's also the same first time in probably ever that the whole world at the same time is opening back up and the whole world is going through the same change. I'm not sure all those stars have ever been aligned before. So the line I'm going to give you now is, it's not often that you get a second chance to create another first impression. And that is exactly what's happening right now around the world. Everyone's getting a second chance to come out, regardless of what they've done in the past, and create a whole new first impression. And that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Kathrin, would you like to come up? Thank you, Scotty.
Sure. I very much, actually, I very much agree with Scotty and also Dustin. Interestingly for me, I always love change, because like the fear some people have when it comes to change, I have when it comes to routine. I absolutely hate routine, and every time I felt like I'm kind of stuck in a rut or stuck in the same job for too long, that gets me anxious. So I need change. So for me, change is something very positive, and there's always lots of opportunities. So that's why I always initiated change myself, in changing jobs and changing maybe industries and changing countries and moving to other places and doing different kinds of jobs, maybe in one industry, but from different sides to get more experience. And I always felt like it's a good thing to never lay all your eggs in one basket, but always spread wide and get a more broader experience in everything you do, rather than being too focused and too specialized in one thing. So if you specialize in one thing, maybe you can climb up the ladder faster. But on the other hand, you're very focused and specialized on one topic. And if you have different experiences, that can be very interesting also to other companies and to other businesses. I very much agree with Scotty when he says, like, this is a second chance. And I totally understand a lot of people have anxieties at the moment. Obviously, it's a difficult situation, especially when you're in a different country. I decided to make a change myself when I left Dubai just before they shut down the flights, and I'm very happy I did that, because at least now I'm free and I can create change on my terms, so it's a lot easier. But obviously, if you're in another country, or if you lose your job, you have obviously anxieties. That's normal. But on the other hand, I think what you need to remember is that nothing positive ever comes from worry. Worry is just a negative feeling that doesn't create anything. So it doesn't help you any further. It doesn't get you anywhere. So if you can now achieve to turn worry into action or into hope, then that's a very good thing. And I think now is also a time, if something happened, you get laid off, or your company is struggling, or you don't really know yet how to do, or how to proceed. I think it's a good time to hold on, just to think, what do you want? Are you happy? Have you been happy before? So it's for some people, it can be a real opportunity to create positive change in their career, because maybe they were laid off from a job they were not happy anyway. So now is the time to think, what do I actually want? If I'm not happy, why I'm not happy, and what can I do about it? How can I use this time now? That's like, it's like a gift now. A lot of people haven't been working for a while, or have reduced working hours. So it's also a gift of time that you can use for yourself, invest in your self-development, just find out what you really want and how you can get there. So I think change is something we always need to anticipate, because there's no more, the time is gone that we are sitting or working for the same business for 40 years. So change is either coming slow over the years, so certain jobs get replaced by automatic like robots or whatever. And then there's this sudden change like COVID-19 that nobody could anticipate. But if you are constantly investing in yourself and also investing in development, different skills, and that can be something completely different from your job, then you have more chances and are more prepared. So maybe you got laid off your job, but maybe you have another skill that you kept and nourished on the side, and you can make a living out of this, at least to get you somewhere over a period of time. So I think we always need to live with the back on our minds that change is always happening, and change can happen at any time, be it your fault, be it not your fault. But being prepared is the best to succeed in such a period of time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wael, would you like to come and share with us also your point of view?
I don't know what to say. I mean, hearing Dustin, Kathrin, Scotty, Carolyn, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm in the wrong group. I thought you guys are quite funny and will be laughing, but you're taking it so serious. All right. Okay. Change. This is quite of a journey. I mean, looking back at 2 divorces I had, or maybe more, I'm not counting anymore. Every time I get to that discussion, I keep hearing that you changed. You changed. Finally, I realized that I'm on the right track because I keep on changing. So So there's no doubt that change is a big factor in life. I mean, for me, I look at it as it's the entire life. It's all about changing. I mean, changing in terms of growth, understanding, learning, growing up, aging, be it whatever, even a company, from company perspective, from leadership, from any matter that you would think of, everything is about changing, right? And I guess the opportunity that we've been giving by the pandemic is pretty much of, time to reflect. And I call it in a funny way, it's time to unscrew your mind, okay? So I took that opportunity to do the same since the pandemic, or maybe before that. When I kind of hit rock bottom, I decided that, this is it. I'm going to stop. If I'm fixing things around, I need to start fixing the inside. So I started applying some inner management type of things. And I guess that gave me the opportunity when hit the fan, all right, that I'm ready to see the pandemic as an opportunity more than anything else. And obviously I'm saying to myself, I'm saying to my kids, if you cannot find the possibility of doing what you want right now, you're going to have to wait for another 100 years for another pandemic to come, and then maybe you'll be dead by then. So take the opportunity and do what you want.
Yes, indeed. Huh?
Thank you.
Thank you, Wael. Jose, are you here with us?
Yes, good morning. How are you, everyone?
Good morning, Jose. Very good, very good.
Nice talking to you. Thank you for having me here.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Would you like to share with us?
Yeah,
yes,
about changes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very impressed with what I'm hearing here from my friends, and I agree in everything. I mean, changes are a thing that make us evolve, and make us to take out the best of us, and to raise the bar and on any situation, personal and business. And for me, I like change, and I love the quote that say that, change before you have to, because on the mindset that I have is I really want to be always, changing, evolving on personal things and on business side as well. Right now, it's a must for everyone with this COVID thing. It's a must, and some people and some companies, they don't know how to survive on change, and it's a practice that you need to be doing every time. Every time you gotta have that mindset of change, of evolution, and it's challenging, to be honest. It's very challenging, but it's a muscle that you have to develop to be in constant change. If not, because change help you to perform with clients, with your output to the clients, to the market, and on a personal side as well. So that's the meaning of changes for me. And it doesn't mean that it's not challenging. And it's changes. There's different levels of change, right? And this change that we are facing right now, as in the entire world, it's a different game. But one good thing is that it's happening to everyone, all right? So it's not that it's just a crisis on your company or in your family or in your city. Right now, we are on the same level. We are in the same game all over the world. So we start all over again together. So that's what the way that I see change and challenges on this time.
Excellent. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Justin, would you like to come on also and share your words about changes?
Change is awesome.
Yeah, I know.
So look where we are now. Look
Yes.
at this group that was created. So just as background, like my personality is like boredom is worse than death. So I was bored one day and I'm just like, oh, I'll just do some post on LinkedIn and tag a bunch of awesome people that I've talked to in the last 30 days. And it's gotten like 10,000 views. And one of the people that commented on it was Sonia. And then we just connected. And then it was like we were separated at birth. And then we're like, why don't we just create this awesome group and bring awesome people from around the world and talk about cool stuff?
Yeah.
And now here we are. So that sums up change to me, is just embracing it, doing something actionable, and creating opportunities for your network and for yourself. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I do agree. For me also, changes means to me actually opportunity. You have the full power just in front of you to change your life in a positive aspect. People have, when it comes to word change, is fears, but actually changes means, well, you have, and you own and hold all the energy in front of you to change what's happening before that you have been complaining. And right now you can do something better and improve and perform. I mean, everything to become a new, fresh person related to your personal or your business life. And for me, yes, definitely, changes is the best things can happen, especially right now, to restart fresh, related to your environment, to in general. It's really in general. And for me, just embrace that changes, because it's well, it's now or never. And if someone is really saying, I don't know how to deal with that, okay, that's fine. Let me help you to really go through the clarity what exactly means changes. And yes, for me, changes is the best things can happen in each person's life, and towards our vision, our goals, our achievement. I mean, everything to anything. And yes, for me, changes is opportunity. Definitely. I really love what everybody have shared today, because it's good to have different vision from different people, whatever you are. Again, it's really help people to go through that journey, who have maybe the same thought, the same ideas like each of us, and then this will help them to keep moving forward. So yes, thank you again for all of you for being here, sharing this with us. We have few people here with us. Do you have any questions? David, Andrew, do you have any questions that you would like to share with us?
I've just shared with you a little message privately.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Sonia, because obviously I was going to leave. I have to leave in about 10 minutes. That particular message is very important, because I am a person who talks about transformational, which means change. And I just I use a lot of analogies and metaphor as a coach, which means that if you just stood on the seashore all day, did nothing, just stood there and see everything around that changes. See, the tides will change, the sun will rise, the sun will set, the breeze might change, the boats might come and go by, you see people, and you're just standing there. Now, if you want to fit into that environment, you have to start adapting to different time zones. So we are constantly changing. Our mood changes from minute to minute, day to day. So we are a changing people. And I believe that when change is, the way we look at change is that COVID-19 has changed our thinking, not because we wanted to think that way. It has made us think in a way that is either driving us down the negative path, as Sonia just said, or we can say, you know what, I'm going to rise above this situation and change. One of the key phrases that I use is that do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation, renewing is part of us changing, like a metamorphosis. We just change. We change, we adapt, we grow, we move forward. And that's what I've been doing over the last 6 months, even before this thing came on. But this thing made me even become more focused towards moving for a positive change. This is a temporary storm. It's like it's a turbulence. When you fly in an aeroplane, you experience turbulence, but it's not throughout the whole journey. It will eventually die. It will go, and turbulence doesn't bring the plane down. At least 99.9% it doesn't bring the plane down. So it's very safe, right? It might be a scary ride for some of us. So what the pilot says, just fasten up your seatbelt, sit back, enjoy, relax, read a book or sip on your martini, doesn't matter. Just ride the storm. And that is what I wanted to say. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much.
David.
David. Sorry. Thank you so much. Well, Wael is moving his hand, saying that he's a
Oh yeah, 2 hands are here.
Even 2 hands. Excellent.
Well, David,
excellent.
well said, David. Thank you so much. You remind me of one thing. If you guys are familiar with Omar al-Khayyam, all right? I'm the youngest among all of you, so I bet I know him very well. He's a millennial.
I'm the oldest, actually. I think I'm the oldest among all of you. If you knew how old I was next month, I'll be 60 years old next month. So probably I'm the oldest.
Live long, David. Well, Omar al-Khayyam says that living for the moment, right? You do everything for the moment, which is quite of a disaster kind of way. If we live in the moment, if we live for the moment, it means we just indulge in our desires and become pretty much impulsive, imbalanced in terms of impulsiveness and compulsiveness. But what you reminded me was, David, that if you are on the shoreline or on the beach side and you're just watching from, sunrise to sunset, you see all these kind of changes. That means you're living in the moment in which you have experienced mindfulness, not mindlessness. Okay. And this is one thing I've noticed about myself in the past few months. Driving to my office, I would have that kind of runaway kind of thoughts. I'm going to the office, I'm going to have this meeting, I'm going to talk to this one, I'm going to call my client, I'm going to do this and that, which is technically, taking a lot of energy from me until I reach the office, and I'm tired, already tired of my thoughts. So what I have changed throughout the past few months is actually thinking of nothing except of what I'm doing at the moment. If I'm driving, I'm just driving. Why do I need to think about anything? I'm just driving, all right? Once I get there, I'll start thinking about it. So changing that sort of mindset of living in the moment, makes you mindful to what's happening in your hands, and you're not worried about yesterday or tomorrow, but in essence of every moment is now. Be it after 1 hour, 2 hours, tomorrow, it's just now. So being mindful of what you're doing in your own hands, you're gonna give it a lot of energy. You'll achieve miraculous things that you never thought about. So thanks for reminding me with that, David.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone has any questions? Jose just said on the chat box, change his heart at the beginning, messy in the middle, and beautiful at the end. Yes, it is. It is. It is. Anyone have a questions? We've got Brian here, Anne, Carl also with here, Lotus. Do you have any questions? Please feel free. Oops, sorry. I have a new airplane coming crossing.
I'd just like to add something onto the discussion.
Hi, Brian.
It's early. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
The first time we've met. It's a pleasure.
It is, yeah.
I manage money for a living and do financial planning, and every day is a different day, and it's always a different day. And I think the one thing that I try to do is separate the narrative from what I see as actual what's happening. And I look at this crisis and I can see unbelievable potential being accelerated in a way that nobody expected. To even talk about the possibility of a vaccine happening within a year or 2 years that nobody would have. With the technology we have now, that wasn't, 10 years ago, no, forget it, not going to happen. 5 years maybe, if we're lucky. And a lot of times what I try to do is to find parallels in history, and I would recommend to every, and I'm sure a lot of you have read it, The Fourth Turning is a book that I think is especially pertinent right now. I read it and I'm reading it again, and I'm going to read it after that, because this is about cycles and about trigger points, and there's a lot of them happening, and within every risk there's a danger, but there's also an opportunity. So and I think everybody here is aware of that, so I appreciate hearing everybody's viewpoint, and it's I enjoy it. So thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great sharing. It is, yes. When there is changes, yes, there is risk, but it's where you go out of your comfort zone. And as Jose said, you end up with a beautiful life and beautiful journey. And that's the point of it. If you don't take the risk, you stay with the mess, with complaining, sadness, all the negative thoughts. But when you go to change, you go for opportunity, you move forward. We all know it's not easy. We definitely all know it's not easy. It's challenging, but it's good. It's good to have this kind of moment. It's definitely good. It's even great, We don't feel like there is a routines or exhausted. No, instead we perform to become better and grow with that. And yes, very great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. We've got a question here from Louis. From a different standpoint, what if you usually embrace change, but whether sorry about my accent, but whether it could be COVID-19 or any other situation in your life does not allow you to change as usual, you kind of feel with your hands tied would represent as a challenge by himself. Anyone would like to say something about this?
I can offer a comment on that one.
Go ahead.
I can very much appreciate that feeling, Luis. I'm one of those people that loves to change as well. I think most of us on this call are, and I guess my strategy for that situation would be first to get really comfortable with that discomfort, and try and understand what it is about the normal pace of change that was fulfilling to you. What was it you were getting out of it? What satisfaction, what need in your life was being met through that constant change? And if you can understand that motivation, if you can understand the need behind that, you can find other ways to fill that need. As an example, I bounced from in one career. In a previous life, I was with a company for 8 years. I had 19 job titles in 8 years. I changed a lot, and I loved it. But I wasn't moving up. I wasn't getting any further in my own life. I wasn't actually advancing anything. I was chasing change as what I thought was advancement and improvement and betterment, but it wasn't. It was just different. Which was why I kept chasing it, because I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. I was constantly doing something new, constantly doing something different. It felt like growth, but it was just churn. And when I realized that the desire that I had that wasn't being met, and why I kept pursuing change was growth, not change, I did a bunch of things differently. I stopped listening to the radio in the morning and started listening to audiobooks on my commute, back when audiobooks were bundles of CDs you would buy and pay way too much money for. But, I also had a tape deck in my car, and I had to plug my CD player into my tape deck to listen to all those wonderful things. But it was the understanding of the driving force in my life that wasn't being met, and why I kept constantly pursuing change, that allowed me to make that realization and make that shift and make that step change in my life. So I would sit in that discomfort for a while and see if you can figure out what the driver is behind the pursuit of change. See if you can label that a little bit more specifically in terms of what is the desire at the end of the day, what's the outcome you actually want, and see if there's a different way to get it from what you would previously do in terms of embracing the change. That would be my take on that one.
Yeah, excellent. Like it, yeah. Very good. Anyone else wants to share something? Yes, go ahead, Carolyn.
Yes, I would probably jump on what Dustin is saying. And I'll go back to something that my mother used to say, and I think it's really relevant in the times that we're living. With that change, people feel a need to make drastic changes and to move now. And my mother would say, be still. There's something about stillness, and again, what David was talking about, mindfulness, that is really important. Yep, be still behind you. Sometimes you really do have to just be still. To even receive what Dustin is talking about, to even receive what David is talking about, get to a place of mindfulness, you have to be still for a minute. You don't have to move. Like when I looked at that in my professional work and during the day, you know, the first thought for a lot of people was, oh, we've got to do this today. We got to change this. We got to change that. We gotta. I was like, stop. There's no hurry for you to do any of those things. How about we stop for a minute and just be still? And let's think about where we want to go. The world's not going to change that drastically. You know, you don't have to make you don't need to make a major decision like that tomorrow. What you do need to do is just stop, still, and let that kind of wash over you and decide what you're going to do next. There's no hurry. So I think that that's a really important thing, try to find the balance. I think it's back to what Dustin said about knowing when you need to change, identifying the mindfulness that David is talking about, but just be still for a moment, just to figure out, because you won't even know that you need to make a change until you be still, you know? And so that will guide you and tell you what you need to do next.
Yeah, so true, yeah. Sometimes when you don't, actually, when you are in kind of environment, a lot of people around you, they are like, you feel like kind of stressed, like, yeah, we need to change, we need to do something right now. But if inside of you, you are not ready for it, maybe you are not part of this kind of change, well, take your time. Doesn't mean that you have to change. Maybe they do have, but not you. As you said, stay still. It's okay. Analyze the situation. What kind of changes do you need? Do you need a change? Is it right now or maybe in the future? And again, is really to be in the present moment. Stay still. Take your time again. You don't have to rush. And especially put pressure into yourself. Because people take it kind of wrong, the way of changes. Okay, right now it's happening, a lot of changes because of the COVID-19 and so on. But this is external of us as a human being. But me, I'm quite okay. I have talked with a lot of people, especially for the past few months. Some are really enjoying the pandemic. They're really enjoying their time, taking the time actually to really to stay still and to nurture themselves for the changes, for the right changes. And some other people are really feeling affected about the changes, about the external changes, because there's something they cannot control, because they cannot control their emotions and so on. So what's going on with that? So this is very conflicting in somehow. But the most important thing is, are you ready? Do you want to change? First of all, when you start to understand that situation with you first, it's always about you. When you're ready with that, okay, what's next? And then you start to move on. And that's it. For me is, again, changes is completely an opportunity to move forward from one state to another one. What we have been going through, it's an experience that helps us to change to, again, to another state and again and again and again and again and again. It's part of the life, it's part of changes, it's part of challenges, and more and more and more. So yes, definitely is, as Dustin said, is be still, analyze what you have right now, and when you're ready, then jump to it, because you will be ready for it. And that's it. Anyone else would like to share something? Any questions? Anything?
After Jose, I can say something.
Yes.
Go for it, Jose.
Okay, Scotty, go ahead.
Me, Jose?
Vamos, Jose.
All right. Just very quick here. One exercise that I like to do when, because change sometimes is by choice, and sometimes it's a must, right? Because of situation. And when it's a must, I like to exercise by fast forward, visualize what's the worst thing that can happen to me or to my organization. So when you go deep to the bottom line of what's the worst thing that could happen to you or your organization, then it's like you rest, and because you visualize what's the worst thing, so in that way you that free me to act with confidence, because otherwise you are trying to avoid that scenario, right? Because you say, oh no, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and you start thinking about that, trying to avoid the feeling of going to that bottom line or to that end line. And so once you feel it and you visualize that, that's all. There's no more. So that set you free to act and to really, start working on solutions or an action plans for that. So that's an exercise that I like to do. I've been under several heavy situations of change previously to COVID. In one of my companies a couple of years ago, one of our main clients filed, after 12 years of business relationship, they filed bankruptcy from one day to another. So that hit me with $1 million on cash and $1 million on business. So that hits you very heavily. So you gotta be, able to visualize what's the worst thing, and to really understand that at the end of the day, it's a lot of money, and it hurts and can hurt you badly. But at the end of the day, you gotta realize and convince yourself that it's only money. It's money, it's paper, that's all. So you have yourself, you have your fortune inside of you, you have your mind. So if you have that, there's no client that can take that out of you, okay? And so you gotta be doing that exercise continuously, to see what's the worst thing that can happen to you or your organization. It works for me. It give me confidence to act. Just want to add that.
Good. So I'll just take 1 or 2 minutes here now, Sonia, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Look, the only thing that's ever been constant is change. Think about all the changes you went through last year, all the changes you went through the last decade. If you're expecting things not to change next year or in this next decade, well, it's just not going to happen. I know the situation at the moment is unprecedented, but changes are inevitable. And a lot of those changes are out of our control. So to go into what Louis said, often your hands are tied. I like to run through a business model that I call the business of thirds. So if you break things into thirds, there's a third of things that you can control, and there's a third of things you can't control. And in the middle is a third of things that will go either way, depending on opportunities or luck or situations and so on. But there's always a third of things that you will never be able to control, no matter what happens. And, you know, focus on the ones you can control though. What can you do and how can you do it? So the last thing I'm going to leave with is just another Scottyism. Look, most people see the definition of insanity is, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Okay, so everyone's heard that. That's from Einstein, apparently. But the one I like to use is this one. And this is why change is so important. And you have to be constantly looking for change and evolving anyway, regardless of situations. Change is something that should be constant in your roadmap going forward, regardless. And this is the reason why. Because my definition of insanity is, if you're doing the same thing as everyone else is doing, and you're expecting a better result, that's insanity. So make change a part of your roadmap.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else have any questions or anything? Yes. Awesome. Exactly. Nice. From Manny said, nice quote, Scotty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manny.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else would like to share something else before we end up the session? I think everyone is okay with that. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for all being here today, sharing this amazing, I would say, vision of life. How do you cope with changes and so on? And much appreciated for all have been here. And thank you again. And this, I believe, will help a lot of people who's going to watch the video again and again. Thank you so much. Wishing you, some of you, a good evening, like you, Scotty. Thank you for being here. Some of you have a beautiful day, and me, I'm mid of my day, I would say. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to
Thank
see you
you
all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.